Hello all! Today I'm weaving a trans pride flag colored scarf for eventual donation for fundraising for one of the multiple LGBTQIA organizations in my area, and talking a bit about my experiences with compulsive caretaking, martyr training, and how donating my work is one of the ways I navigate alleviating the literal headaches I get when I don't follow the trained compulsions to care for others, regardless of whether or not my body has the ability to take care of itself in the process. I hope you enjoy. My name is Took. I'm a disabled genderqueer weaver who's had life take odd turns, but who knows that even tattered and worn yarn still has value, and that tired joints and health flares don't have to stop the journey. I weave exclusively with secondhand fibers, aided with adaptive warping, HR and OSHA cats, and a wonderful found family. Welcome to Hawksong Weaving, where all our paths are a little bit warped. First, a bit of an explanation on why I've developed this adaptive warping method. I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which has cascaded into postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. So for time's sake, know that I have joints that don't work, and if I shift positions too quickly, I get pre-syncope or pre-fainting symptoms. All of this comes with chronic pain, so for a lot of reasons, a traditional warping board doesn't work for me, along with being really expensive and taking up a lot of space in my small studio. So I use an accordion coat rack as my warping board. It's nice and neat, it contracts into a nice smaller space, and I can adjust it as I need to. And I don't need to be up and down and all around and having tachycardia, a racing heart, that stresses out my medical alert cat Penelope Calico. For new folks to the channel, Penelope Calico is 6 years old and an untrained, unlicensed medical alert cat. She was originally gotten as an emotional support animal for my emotional support animal Hades Himbo, but then decided to pull double duty as a dysautonomia alert cat. She has a 100% success rate with diagnoses, to the point where if she starts screaming at one of my friends, I let them know that they need to talk to their doctor. She will tattle on me to my partners when I don't do as I'm told, and at least 3 ER doctors have agreed with her assessments of my health. I love her so much, but I'm never getting another calico again, as I did not consent to being, however much accurately, deemed a dumb sheep by my border collie of a cat. For anyone who's curious, this loom is a 15-inch wide shocked cricket loom. It's a rigid heddle loom, and I love it so much. It's birch, it's very sturdy, it can take a beating, but it's light enough that I can lift it even when I'm having a pain or fatigue day. It's also one of the cheapest looms on the market, averaging around $250 at the time of filming. Skipping ahead a bit so that this video doesn't drag, but for reference, that process took about 15 minutes all told. If you're trying out this method and it takes longer, please don't worry, I've been doing this process about once or twice a day for years, and my muscle memory has it down. With the warp threads sorted, I'm lifting up the loom to release the warping board from the loom, gathering the warp threads into one large bundle, and using the back of my neck to drape them over and keep them tidy and out of the way, while I collapse the warping board and get my terry cloth towels in place. I use terry cloth towels to cushion the warp threads. This helps prevent the finished weaving from being tighter at the ends and looser in the middle, creating a sort of sausage profile in the weaving. They also have more grip than a traditional cardstock, which I find difficult to use because it tends to slide all over the place. Every other week or so, I'll wash and dry the terry cloth towels, as the pressure from how tight I prefer my warp to be can flatten them over time and make them less effective at cushioning the warp threads. With this particular weaving, I'm a bit at the tail end, so I'm tugging down the left side of the warp a little bit to get it a bit more even so I can cut it. I realized after 3 years of weaving with this method that cutting the warp loops in one go is a lot easier than the previous way that had me cutting the warp loops at the end of winding the warp. This is so much simpler and also decreases the amount I need to trim at the end of the weaving. The scrap yarn will get used for stuffing for other products like the scented scrappy sachets that are some of my best sellers. This also helps keep everything for Hawksong Weaving zero waste. Now, time to weave the eyes of the rigid heddle. This isn't a great angle, but I'm being careful to pay attention to how the warp threads are laying on the back bar of the loom, and the right hand thread goes through the smaller hole in the rigid heddle reed. It's not critical, and some minor mistakes aren't the end of the world, but it does make it easier to keep the tension of the warp threads even across the entire weaving. I'd like to thank you for watching. If you'd like to support my work, some free ways to do that are to like, subscribe, or follow, and share. This applies to other small artists as well. It's a great way to let the social media algorithms know that this is content worth watching, which then turns into ad revenue. If you'd like to support me financially, there's a Buy Me a Coffee linked below, which acts as sort of a tip jar. I also now have YouTube memberships fully set up that gets you access to videos as soon as I post them, rather than on the schedule of parallel resting videos on Tuesdays and project or unboxing videos on Fridays. Everyone gets the shorts at the same time because I need that dopamine hit. Also, now that there are so many of you absolutely fantastic and wonderful subscribers, I've been able to link the online Hawksong Weaving shop, so feel free to check out the unique handwoven products. This next bit is absolutely a joke, but just in case in this economy I won't say no. For $1,000 a month, you can tell me that I'm not actually disabled, I'm just lazy, and to try whatever yoga, juice cleanse, snake oil nonsense fixed your cousin. Feel free to message me and I'll get you my payment deets. I take Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, and check for this nonsense because YouTube wouldn't let me set up this membership tier as a joke. Feel free to mail a check, or more likely, donations of yarn, buttons, etc. to the P.O Box listed down below. After many requests from the self-proclaimed and self-named fandom of Hawksong Weaving, the Yarn Brats, and a firm talking to from my partners and therapist, I'm now accepting physical donations of items that will improve my life. There's a list on the Hawksong Weaving website. If by chance duplicates are sent of an item, I'll make sure to get that item to other disabled genderqueer artists in my community. There are a lot of us in the Northampton, Massachusetts area, so nothing will go to waste. I originally wasn't going to accept this type of donation, as the yarn was helping me do my work and create content, but as my therapist pointed out, I can't make content without a functional body, and the items on the wish list will help with that. Please do not gift anything if your finances are under strain. Take care of yourself first. Skipping ahead again a little bit and attaching the warp to the bottom apron bar, which is pretty easy. I finger comb it, get it separated into bits about 4 to 5 warp threads wide, separate these bits into 2, and then do a half hitch tie to the apron bar. I start at the center rather than on the sides because I find that it's easier that way and it doesn't wobble and create an issue. It doesn't slip around. Basically, same reason I use the terry cloth towels as opposed to the traditional cardstock method. Now getting the next terry cloth towel in place, and because I prefer a fairly high tension, I'm tightening up the warp. If your fingers are hypermobile, please be careful when doing this, as the pressure can bend them backwards, and that is #not comfortable, and will increase your chances of developing arthritis a lot more quickly. And now for the actual weaving. Some tips and tricks for getting even selvages. When you're first learning to weave, practice these consciously for the first bit of a weaving session. The shuttle goes through and is pulled at a 45-degree angle while pinching at the point of the corner of the selvage. This allows for the weft to have enough space to settle in between the warp and creates a tight turn at the selvage. In order to keep this 45-degree angle in the narrow space of a rigid heddle, you're going to need to wind your weaving down regularly. Selvages are one of the things I'm complimented on from other weavers when they see my work at art markets, so these tips and tricks do work. So on to the talking about mutual aid and compulsive caretaking bit of this video. I'm currently working on a book titled More Mutual, Less Aid: Practical Tips for Navigating Mutual Aid Networks as a Compulsive Caretaker. So I'll be sharing some snippets as I work on the rough draft in the form of videos like this. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this scarf will be donated for fundraising purposes, either in a raffle or an auction, to one of the many LGBTQIA+ organizations in my area. I'm doing this both as a means to help support my community and as a means of self-support by bleeding off some of the pressure from the compulsive caretaking I deal with every day. So what is compulsive caretaking? Let's break this down. Compulsive, of, relating to, caused by, or suggestive of psychological compulsion or obsession, usually involuntary. Caretaking, the actions of giving physical or emotional care and support. In often cases, this is the result of what I refer to as martyr training, the conditioning during childhood, often expanded on later in young adulthood, that leads to the pathological compulsive caretaking that compels you to view putting your own needs on the back burner, and that suffering while serving others is the ultimate expression of love. This conditioning often includes societal systems and familial systems that result in being gaslit about chronic medical conditions, being neurodivergent, often combined with parentification and high-control living situations that remove autonomy. Parentification is when a child takes on developmentally inappropriate levels of responsibility for their family's emotional, physical, and/or mental well-being. This reverse parenting results in them becoming caregivers before they're physically, mentally, or emotionally ready for such responsibility. So what does this mean for me and those like me who deal with pathological compulsive caretaking? For me, pathological compulsive caretaking feels like my brain is assaulting me. I'm not consenting. I'm not in control. I'm not informed. It's happening inherently without my consent. There's a pressure pain from somewhere deep within that gets immensely worse if I don't find some way to alleviate that pressure. It builds and builds and hurts when I don't provide to aid to others who are hurting, despite how much mental and physical pain I'm in myself. In fact, the internal pressure gets stronger when I'm dealing with chronic pain or brain fog, so I'm even less able to say no in these situations. This creates incredibly dangerous situations for me and for the people I'm trying to help. I'm still desperately trying to rewire my brain, because if left to my own devices, I will burn myself to a crisp to help those I love. I'm immensely lucky to have built a found family that views my health and well-being as more valuable than the labor I can provide, or could provide. And it's helped me set up frameworks, checks and balances, and methods to ease off the pressure of the pathological compulsive caretaking, and ways to support me when I fall prey to the compulsions hardwired into my brain. So I'm writing these methods down, and I'm getting them out there in the form of videos and the eventual book, so that at least anyone else who deals with PCC and deals with this might not be starting from scratch. These methods are not going to work for everyone in every situation. This is very much a take what works, adapt what you can, leave the rest sort of deal. But hopefully some of it will help. And this is a method that I found helps for me, which is donating my work. Donating my work rather than my time and money is a way that helps me support my community, alleviate that pressure of compulsive caretaking, and also serves me as well. If this might work for you, find a craft that also serves you in some way and donate the resulting work. That it serves you as well is critical. More mutual, less aid. You also deserve care and consideration and cannot pour from an empty cup, etc. These crafts can be endless. Hats, scarves, mittens, blankets, small pieces of art that will bring a smile to someone's face, fueling their soul. If you don't want to or can't interact with a ton of people, leaving these items on benches with a kind note is a great way to go. Or if you're wanting to or able to interact with people and organizations, donating your goods to organizations for fundraising purposes is a great way to handle that itch. By donating your goods for a fundraising, raffle, or auction, you can help bring in more revenue than selling that item on its own. These organizations can then use that revenue to help more people than you on your own can. Keeping notes of what you're doing and what you've donated so that you can look back on those notes when the pathological compulsive caretaking is causing a pressure headache is also really helpful. Being able to remind yourself using logic and empirical evidence and data that you are helping as much as you can, that you're not useless, and then being able to shift from those logic hacks to the more active logic of my worth is not based on my labor, my worth is not based on what I am doing for my community, I have inherent worth because I'm a human being. But in order to get to that point, I found that it's more helpful to start with okay, here's what I have done. Alleviate the pressure of the compulsion so that you're then able to better build and rewire the brain pathways that you want and that are going to be sustainable for you. But yeah, this is just a small snippet of what I've been working with and working on, and I wanted to share a method that might be helpful for folks who are dealing with something similar. We're all in this together, and unfortunately, we don't exist in a world where we're continually able to bash our brains and our bodies against our own disabilities, no matter how much we might want to. And ultimately, we'll be of more service and more help by taking care of ourselves first. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's annoying, but it is reality. Now tying off the scarf fringes, I prefer to do 2x2 warps tied into a fringe of 4, but I will do a double sliding knot of 3 if I don't have a wide enough warp. This particular scarf turned out really, really well, and I'm quite pleased with it. And it's just lovely, and it's pretty, and it's wonderful. Yee! And now unveiling this particular scarf, it turned out so wonderfully. I love the interplay of the white, the blue, the pink. It's just very silky soft and decadent feeling, especially for something made out of acrylic. And it's just, all right, time to tie this off and then store it away and get things ready for upcoming markets, because I just needed something to bleed off the pressures, because I've been focusing a lot on my own business and my own, methodology in the last couple of weeks, and I needed to be reminded that I was doing things for my community. Just the internal, there's also the no, this is the right thing to do, is to help my fellow people, but then it gets into the, oh no, I'm not taking care of myself in the process, and I'm actually doing more harm than good by not doing so. And it's just such a pain in the butt to be a genuinely mutually aid inclined person and to then deal with pathological compulsive caretaking. It gets, oh god, it's so annoying. It's so annoying, and I'm so glad that I'm in a place where I'm able to build the methods, checks and balances, frameworks to keep myself safe from my own brain in this process. And I'm hoping that I can share that with others, and that at least some of it will be helpful for folks. Because I especially know that a lot of you who follow me are also disabled and chronically ill, and God, the internalized ableism that come from compulsive caretaking when you're in a body that will not allow you to do as much as the compulsion screams at you to do. It really, yeah, it's just awful. I'm not going to steam block this scarf because it's not a wool blend. I do usually steam block my wool blend scarves to help the fibers to soften into each other and relax into the weave, but in this case, everything's already fairly even and loose, so I'm eyeballing the length of the fringe that I want and using the don't ask me how much I spent on these good shears and trimming it. This step is usually between 20 to 30 minutes of tying the fringe knots. This step isn't critical for a lot of yarns, but I like it as it creates a more polished, finished look for the scarf. And done! Thank you for coming along with me as I babbled at you about compulsive caretaking and wove this scarf for donations. I'm so glad for the odd turn that your path took that brought you here. Thank you for spending time with me at Hawksong Weaving, where we're all a bit warped, and I hope that you have a truly excellent week.